Colonial America. This is your first online lecture for this year's flipped classroom, and we're going to be going through this together. Make sure you work at your own pace. So this is Chapter 3, Sections 1 and 2. Make sure you're reading the chapters and staying along with the reading. So first we have England in America. During the late 1500s, Spain and England were rivals. They were nautical rivals, and they were rivals for trying to set up new colonies in the northern and western hemisphere. Sir Francis Drake sailed for the English. He was a pirate that attacked the Spanish ships, very similar to what you might have seen in Pirates of the Caribbean. This led to King Philip sending the Spanish Armada to England in 1588. And that was when the Spanish Armada was defeated by the British, thus opening up the Atlantic Ocean to the British to colonize North and South America because the Spanish presence in the Atlantic was diminished. So because of this loss of control, North America is now open to English colonization. And here you see a painting from the late 1500s, early 1600s of what the Battle of the Spanish Armada was like, how bloody it was, how destructive it was. This is a less than accurate because it's a little bit dramatized, but it still shows how fierce the fighting was. And this is a map. If you see, the Spanish were leading from Lisbon, Portugal, sailing around England, and the British left from Plymouth and attacked them in the English Channel, and then the Spanish Armada just was never the same. So the early English colonies. Roanoke. This was set up by Sir Walter Raleigh. This was located on Roanoke Island off the coast of North Carolina. In 1587, a second group of colonists showed up to bolster the amount of people at the colony. Virginia Dare is credited as the first English child born in America, so she'd be the first natural-born American citizen. And John White was the leader of the Roanoke colony. He left for supplies, but it took him 3 years to come back. And when he arrived, the colonists were all gone. And all that was left was a clue written on a tree, Croatan, Croatan, which is also the name of a local Native American tribe. There are some theories that speculate what happened, and there really is no right or wrong answer. More early English colonies. Jamestown, the Virginia Company. This was a joint stock company, which meant that people, businessmen, private citizens spent money to make sure that the Virginia Company could go and settle this area and set up a colony. In December 1606, set sail for Virginia with 144 settlers, named Jamestown after King James, and their initial goal was to search for silver and gold. Only 38 original settlers survived to the spring, so over 100 people died. Captain John Smith, the hero, many of you that might have seen Pocahontas are familiar with him. What he did, being more famous than just Pocahontas fame, is he forced the settlers to work, and he was able to get corn from the Native Americans. When Smith left, he went back to England, and this became known as the Starving Time. And that's when our new hero arrives, John Rolfe. He began growing tobacco and made peace with the Native Americans, and he married Pocahontas and brought her back to England. And tobacco ends up becoming one of the early cash crops for the American colonists. Here's Captain John Smith. There's Pocahontas. Another Pocahontas. Now, Jamestown, the first that took place in America. First representative government. The Virginia House of Burgesses, a 10 towns sent to representatives to an assembly to make laws for the colony. New arrivals, women and children, started to become important in the colony. Men paid 120 pounds of tobacco to get married because there were so few women, but they wanted to have children so they could work and be on the farms. In 1619, the first Africans came to America. The first Africans were not slaves, they were indentured servants. In 1640, first African born in America, William Tucker. But in 1660, slavery was made legal in Virginia. Here's a sign from Virginia, the first Africans in English America. You can read this, and it kind of tells a little bit of the backstory. And then at the end, we see that the United States abolished slavery in 1865 after the Civil War. New England. Why did New England become colonized? Religious persecution. Separatists, or otherwise known as Puritans, wanted to reform the Anglican Church, the Church of England, but they decided to leave. They went to the Netherlands, but then they made a deal with the Virginia Company. Give us land and religious freedom, and we will give you money. So the Puritans' plan was to go set up a new place to live where they could practice their religion, and then they would send money back to the Virginia Company. The New England colonies here, we have Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. Up at the top you have it labeled as Maine. This was actually part of Massachusetts for a very long time. The Pilgrims. They started their 102 pilgrims. They left for Virginia on the Mayflower. The first land that they sighted was now known as Cape Cod. So the Pilgrims dropped anchor and, realizing they were not within the territory of Virginia, drafted a formal document called the Mayflower Compact. Here's a picture of the first Thanksgiving and the crossing of the Mayflower. Native Americans, Squanto and Samoset, were Pawtucket Native Americans that helped out, taught the Pilgrims how to grow corn, beans, and pumpkins, where to hunt and fish, and they helped the Pilgrims live in harmony with other Native American tribes. In 1629, the Massachusetts Bay Colony, Puritans wanted to create a society based on the Bible. John Winthrop was the Puritan leader. 900 men settled in what is now Boston. But Puritans did not tolerate other views in their colony, which led to the creation of Connecticut. Thomas Hooker, a Puritan, founded Hartford and became Connecticut 3 years later. This was known as the place for the first written constitution in America, called the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut. Rhode Island, founded by Roger Williams. He was forced out of Massachusetts, settled in Rhode Island. First place in America that allowed for full religious freedom. In 1638, John Wheelwright left Massachusetts and founded Exeter, New Hampshire.